In the grand tapestry of scientific inquiry, there are threads of bold discovery and threads of curious misadventure. Sometimes, a single idea can capture the human imagination so completely that it transcends the very evidence meant to support it. Such is the story of a physician from Haverhill, Massachusetts. At the dawn of the 20th century, he sought to answer one of humanity's oldest questions using the tools of modern science. In 1907, Dr. Duncan McDougall declared that he had measured the weight of the human soul. He claimed that at the precise moment of death, a small but measurable amount of mass departed from the body. That weight, he reported, was 21 grams. This assertion was nothing short of revolutionary, a tangible number assigned to an intangible concept. Dr. Duncan McDougall was a man of his time, living in an era when the boundaries between science, spiritualism, and psychology were still being drawn. Science, spiritualism, psychology. He was not a fringe mystic, but a respected physician who approached his work with a seemingly scientific mindset. His goal was clear: to determine, through experimental means, if the human soul possessed physical weight. He devised a procedure that was both straightforward and macabre. He needed to weigh a person at the exact moment of their death, a task that required access to the terminally ill and a great deal of patience. His laboratory was a room in a local sanatorium. It housed those afflicted with tuberculosis, a disease that often led to a quiet, predictable decline. McDougall constructed a special apparatus for his experiment. He sourced large, sensitive Fairbanks platform scales. He placed a lightweight bed frame upon them. 6 terminally ill patients were moved onto this bed in their final hours. McDougall and his team meticulously balanced the scale. They noted the patient's weight and observed for hours. They waited for the final breath. Science is a self-correcting process. A single extraordinary claim requires extraordinary evidence, and it must withstand the relentless scrutiny of the wider scientific community. Dr. McDougall's 21-gram hypothesis, while captivating, quickly drew criticism from his contemporaries, and these critiques have only grown stronger over time. The most glaring flaw in his experiment was the incredibly small sample size. Of the 6 human patients he studied, only 1 produced the famous 21-gram result. The other cases were far less conclusive. 1 patient lost weight, but then regained it. Another showed a 2-step loss. 2 other results had to be discarded entirely because of mechanical failures with the scales. A 6th case was excluded because the patient died while the equipment was still being calibrated. The experimental conditions were far from pristine. Vibrations and movements could affect readings. Determining the exact moment of death was itself uncertain. In the spirit of good scientific practice, Dr. McDougall understood the need for a control group. If the soul was a uniquely human attribute, then other animals should not exhibit the same weight loss at death. To test this, he replicated his experiment on a group of 15 dogs. He reasoned that dogs, in many belief systems without a divine soul, would provide the perfect baseline. If they showed no weight loss, it would strengthen his claim that the human result was the soul. This comparison was crucial to build a defensible argument. The setup was largely the same. McDougall sourced healthy dogs and, by his account, induced their deaths on the scales. Ethically troubling now, not uncommon then. He weighed before and after, watching for any sudden drop. He looked for a null result, an absence of change, as evidence that the human loss was special, non-biological, uniquely human. He reported none of the 15 dogs showed measurable loss at death, uniformly negative. But Clark countered. Assistants and records suggested mixed results. Some dogs lost weight, others gained, undermining the control and revealing unreliable method. Beyond the famous weighing experiment, McDougall's quest for the soul substance led him to another frontier: the X-ray. Having what he believed was quantitative evidence, he turned to qualitative evidence. A picture. He theorized the soul, if matter, might be visible under certain conditions. He imagined an interstellar ether, finer than any element, that might glow as it separated from the body at death. His X-ray experiment was more ambitious and less controlled. The plan: Take a radiograph at the instant of passing. Incredibly difficult with cumbersome gear and long exposures. He reported a tantalizing but ambiguous result, a faint luminous glow with no clear cause. He took it as the soul made visible. Critics cited light leaks, static discharge, emulsion defects, long exposure ghosts, and noisy, low-resolution images. Without a clean, repeatable image, it remained anecdote, hope projected onto shadow. Despite its profound scientific failings, McDougall's experiment did not fade into obscurity. It planted a seed in the public consciousness that grew for over a century. The idea the soul has a weight, 21 grams, became cultural shorthand. Its persistence owes more to storytelling than to the strength of the evidence. 21 grams is small, specific, memorable. It turns a metaphysical question into a concrete, repeatable fact. The number feels scientific, lending a spiritual idea credibility. It found fertile ground in an age hungry for links between science and the soul. It ran in newspapers, magazines, was debated in parlors, and sank into the zeitgeist. The narrative was perfect. A dedicated doctor, a precise measurement, a profound implication, flaws overlooked for the better story. The idea wove into films, literature, music, and manga, often treated as curious trivia. The myth endures because we need to believe we are more than biological machines. It comforts in a secular world and counters the consensus that mind ends with brain. McDougall's scales persist not because they're true, but because we want them to be. Testament to our search for meaning and a soul in the cosmos. In the final analysis, McDougall stands as a cautionary tale. A compelling hypothesis, ambiguous data, and confirmation bias can forge myths that outlive evidence. From a modern perspective, the experiment is deeply flawed and unfounded. No rigorous replication has found credible evidence that consciousness, or a soul, has mass. The consensus: our thoughts, memories, sense of self, are products of neural networks in our brain. With fMRI and EEG, we correlate mental states to electrical and chemical activity. We understand consciousness far better than ever. Yet all signs point to the brain as the generator of mind. When activity ceases, so does the person. A soul substance drifting away finds no support in contemporary biology, chemistry, or physics. And yet, the question lingers. Why does this story refuse to die? It touches the ultimate mystery, the subjective feel of experience, the hard problem of consciousness, the redness of red, the joy of music, the ache of love, still not fully explained. Because we don't fully grasp how brain yields mind, space remains for wonder, and ideas like a weighable soul. For all its faults, his was an attempt to pull a monumental question into the lab. The legacy is not fact, but provocation.